If your business is struggling to grow, in this episode, we're going to talk about the key markers and metrics you should be looking at. So with me today is Linda. Linda, thanks for joining me for episode 178.
Good to be here. Nice to see you, Mopes.
I can see you're very cold there for anyone watching the video version.
Hopefully no one can notice.
Is that a half
Hopefully
a
people are
jumper
just listening
on
to us and not looking at us today.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe that's reason to actually see what Linda's doing. So anyway, today we're going to talk about, because this happens a lot, right, Linda? Like, with your clients and your team members in our digital marketing department, with me in sales, people will often say, hey, look, I need to grow, right? And they come to you with a problem. I need to grow, I need to get more leads or whatever. And then the moment we start asking them, we're like, okay, cool. So I think, you and I, we were talking about this earlier, we're similar in that then we'll start trying to diagnose the problem and trying to ask more questions. So it's like, okay, cool. Is this a lead problem? Is it a traffic problem? Is it a traffic to lead conversion problem? Is it a sales problem? So there are a lot of the markers that we'll often ask, right? So I thought, we'll go through a rough sort of, it's almost like a story, what happens sort of top of funnel, and some of the key metrics and markers we look at and get clients to report on before we can do any real work. Right?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So everything that we're going to share, it's all based on data. And I think that's the first place that we need to start at. So if you're dealing with a problem and, you don't know what's going on, oftentimes clients might come to us and say, hey, we're struggling with customers right now. Let's just push more money into Google Ads. And, spending more money isn't always the answer. And so companies that will come to us and say that, they typically don't know the answers to some of these key metrics, which then they misdiagnose the problem that they're dealing with.
Yep.
So I think what we're going to go through today is how we kind of hear a problem and then we have a look at the data and then figure out, okay, how do we diagnose the right thing that we're dealing with, essentially.
Yeah.
So I guess the first one, like Moby was saying, was traffic to leads. So having a look at how much traffic you're getting through the website and then how many actual how many actual leads or contacts are you producing? So how many conversions do you have on your website?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is more like your macro conversions. So who's filling out an important form on your website or who's calling the phone number.
Yeah. It's the traffic to leads. So we're talking about traffic, right? Yeah. And then you've got, that's right. Because sometimes I get confused myself because often clients will say, hey, I need more traffic or and this, we had a client, we were talking about this before.
Yeah.
I need more SEO. And that's just because it's something they think they need to do. But when we looked at their industry, they were getting 10,000 visitors. For some industries, I know that's quite low, but for their industry, it was quite high. And they were converting at less than 1%, like 0.7, 0.5. Whereas your traffic to leads, on average, it should be 2 to 3%. That's what your website should be converting at. If it's e-commerce, then it should be 2 to 3% e-commerce sales. So that's essentially the first metric, right? And I mean, that's probably one of the only ones you can give a benchmark on. Then from there, it gets really wild and different compared to what industry. But that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it goes without saying, I'm sure it seems obvious, but a lot of people will naturally go online and look at industry benchmarks, which if you don't have any in-house data, then fair enough. That's what you'll do. You'll go online, look at some benchmarks and then see, how you compare to that. But if you've been in business for longer than a year, you should have that data unless all your tracking is set up wrong. But you should have access to a lot of that data. So always compare to past performance and benchmark yourself that way, as opposed to getting fixated to online numbers because they're often inaccurate. It can be really hard to find real data.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've got, I think you make a good point. If you've been in business for anything more than a year or so, then your own data is going to be better than benchmark. And you can see how that's been traveling. And again, Linda touches on the point. Often one of the big things we find is, we'll do this work with clients, but we need to set up the tracking first. So a lot of these metrics, part of your job, if you're a marketer or a business owner and you don't know these and you think, so if you think you've got a lead problem or a customer problem or you want more of those things, you need to know these metrics. You have to know your visitors to leads and some of these other metrics we're going into. Otherwise, you're going to misdiagnose a problem or find an agency and they will do the wrong thing for you.
Yeah, or you might even be focusing on the wrong metrics. You guys will notice as we go through all of these, they're all related to business growth.
Yeah.
If you're focusing on all these micro things that aren't related to business growth, then you're going to spend time or wasted time on metrics that really aren't going to move the needle for you.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we move on, Mose?
Yeah, do it.
All right, beautiful. So the next one after traffic to leads is lead to sale ratio. And this can be a complicated one because different people have different definitions on what a lead is. Mobes, what are we talking about here when we talk about lead?
Yeah, so we're going to keep this quite general and broad because I hate the debate around, what's an SQL, MQL? Like, keep it really simple. Like, if you are in a business where you do send proposals, then okay, cool. You might say, okay, lead is a lead. And then once they're a commercial opportunity, call them an opportunity or an SQL, and then have customer. Be very wary of trying to set it up perfectly, especially if you're an OCD person and you want to follow all the textbook stages. Like there's subscriber, there's lead, there's MQL, there's SQL, there's opportunity, and then customer. It's just too much, right?
Yep.
So keep it simple. Make sure you do what works for your business. But essentially here, we're talking about someone who's expressed interest in your business to sale. So we're going to call it lead, but it could be an SQL. It doesn't matter. Do we have any sort of recommendations here? Or I guess the first thing is actually having that and then improving it.
Yeah, having that and making sure that you're very, very clear on how you personally define lead. But if we talk about anything from like someone that comes in from your website all the way until like the actual sale itself, there's a number of things that can go wrong here, right? Like your lead to sale ratio being poor could be a few things. Could be a misalignment between marketing and sales if they're operating as two separate divisions. So you could have a lot of like unqualified leads coming through and that not being spoken to with the sales team. So to fix that, you'd probably focus on reducing your unqualified lead volume by a certain amount once you have that data.
Yeah.
But it could be other things like your actual sales process. So there could be a lot of friction in the sales process. So, too many steps, not enough follow-ups, that could be hurting your lead to sale ratio. So I think the point is here, having the data and then like seeing it as a trend, seeing how it fits in and trends against all the other metrics we're talking about. And if you have a problem here, you can start to look into those things.
Yeah.
Is there too much friction? Is there an issue with the messaging, the positioning of the marketing collateral, or is the sales process, is there just too much friction?
The last thing that I'll say on this is it is a good idea to measure your marketing versus non-marketing because they have very different ratios. So marketing could be, your SEO, your paid media, all of that, and your non-marketing referral, maybe networking things that you're doing, outbound things. So breaking them into marketing and non-marketing. When you have your sales targets and you convert them to, okay, for us to get these sales, we need these many proposals. For us to get these many proposals, we need to have this many meetings. For us to have this many meetings, we need to have this many leads. And then look at what you're getting. So if you have that data and you're recording that data, you can see how many of those historically are translating to customers. So that's the thing I think people get wrong with forecasting. It takes a while. It takes a while. So we're redoing ours for the rest of the year. And it takes a while, but once you do it right, then you actually set up for success.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. All right. Next on the list is pipeline velocity. So basically, how long does it take to convert? And Mobes, I know you have a lot of experience on this one, so I'm going to kick it to you.
Yeah, so I love what you mentioned in the notes here. The idea is like shortening the time it takes to convert leads into paying customers. And I just got this question today. So a prospect said to me, it's like, Moby, okay, how do you speed up the sales process? And I think the key thing is like when you don't have a system like a HubSpot or a Salesforce, okay, fine, use Salesforce. I'm not going to hate on Salesforce. Use whatever you want, right? But if you don't have a system, you are going to have gaps. Like you are just going to have gaps. You just really are. And we know you're going to have gaps because like when we have a service called HubSpot Optimization where we look at a HubSpot portal, we do a project and we fix it up. Like there are gaps when people have HubSpot and they're not using it properly. So they're not following people up. They don't have reports for, we've got reports that say, for instance, these are opportunities you haven't contacted in 3 days. Here's ones you haven't contacted in 7. Here's ones you haven't contacted in a month. And those numbers should always be 0. Or at the end of the day or end of the week, they need to be 0. And the moment you turn those reports on and people see like, oh my God, we didn't get back to that person.
Yeah.
So like that is probably the most boring advice I'll give you, but that's the one that will make the biggest impact right?
Yeah.
And then there's other things, so, everyone will tax, so we'll give it to them. So there's two key things here. Like, you using one-to-one video is I've been doing this. We've been doing this for so long at Red Pandas, right? Like, Linda, like for me, back in my mind, like, you have to remember what's new for you isn't new for everyone else. I think back in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's not that impressive anymore. But I'm amazed how often people still find it as impressive.
Yeah.
Like just today, I had a prospect, I had a meeting. Normally I do this the day before, but I ran out of time, so I did it in the morning. I said, hey, look, I noticed you didn't check out my video. And it was really pleasant, but it was direct, right? That's what works in sales. I'm like, if you need more time, let's reschedule, because I want you to watch this video before we jump on, because here's what we're going to cover. You mentioned you had this problem with sales and you want to target this particular audience. That's what you came to me with, and that's what we're going to cover. Here's what I've shared in response to that. So it was all about them. It wasn't about, watch this video. Like, it's like, you came to me with this problem about this persona, and I listed the persona. So they're like, oh, this guy's, if anything, it's impressive. Yeah. Like, he's listening to us, and he has to, and then sure enough, they watched the video. To be honest, I'll be completely honest with you, I actually kind of wanted them to reschedule because I had a really busy day. But I was like, if you're going to watch it, I'll jump on the meeting, but I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah.
We're going to just be kicking tires.
There's an authority thing in there as well.
100%.
Yeah.
See, in sales, what I've realized, you've got to act with people how you would act if you're really busy and have leads falling out of your butt.
Yeah.
You just have to. Because I was so busy, like, I would have done that anyway. That's what I've trained myself. But it was very easy for me to say that.
Yeah.
Like, very directly, because I'm not dying for leads right now.
Yeah.
But whether you're dying for leads or not dying, you have to bring that energy.
Yeah.
You have to.
My partner will often say care, but not too much.
Yeah, that's right.
Care, but don't care too much.
Yeah, you know what I like about that, care, but not care too much? You can't care more about it than they do.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
You're never going to get the sale. Like, they have to be caring more about it than you do.
Yeah.
So you show a little bit, and it's almost like a concern for their care.
Yeah.
So obviously one-to-one video still works really, really well. We've said this in previous episodes. I'll say it again. Follow-ups. Follow-ups are the F word of sales, and frustration is the F word of marketing. So
like
essentially, don't say follow-ups, right? Like, I'm just following up. I will say one thing better than saying follow-ups. It's like, if follow-ups is a fail, this might be like a just pass, and I learned this from a client of mine actually, and I use it myself, it's a courtesy call. Hey, look, it's a courtesy call, sent you something that day, just a courtesy call, see how you're doing with it. I don't like to use it. Sometimes I still do use it, if I'm honest.
I guess it feels a bit more friendly than salesy.
The idea is,
if you're on
I'm
a scale,
you.
is probably one step to the right.
It's one step better. It is one step, because it's like, Linda, I'm helping you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm helping you. I sent this. I'm helping you to see where you're at with it, to get things moving if you need to. So that's a little bit better. So if you've done your discovery right, and you've listened to the pain points and the gain points, like what they care about, what success means to them, then that's what you follow up with. So we've been doing 3 articles per week for 2-3 years now. We rank off the charts for anything HubSpot related, but we do it because we can use that content in sales.
Yeah.
And your team uses it in production as well, So I'm following up with that. And if I don't have that, or even if I do have that, I will share a video, a one-to-one video, give them some ideas and insights. And it's always really impressive. Any points on that? This is probably the one we'll spend the most time on, but like, it is a key one that we can really move the needle.
All I'll say is the whole video thing, like, yeah, you're right. It's so embedded in what we do, so it feels very normal. But in inquiries that I've made with companies over the last year, like 2 years, I don't think I've ever received a video back in an email.
Right?
Like,
we still haven't got it yet as customers.
The only closest part I'll go to it is recently I was looking at personally like celebrants for overseas. For my for my wedding that will be overseas. And one woman, she had a video of herself on her website introducing herself, and like she was talking to the camera, and like it was really odd to see, because I'm getting married in Greece. So to see a Greek person like doing that and putting themselves in front of the camera, I was really surprised, and she ended up getting my phone call.
But that was on the website?
It was on her website.
Right, so that was the closest thing. It wasn't even a one-to-one video sent to you. Yeah, exactly.
So still so many competitors of yours are not doing it, I'm sure.
Someone might say, oh, you know what, like, that's different. It's an emotive buy. Every sales is emotional.
Yeah.
Every sale is emotional. Like, it doesn't matter if you're selling engineering commercial, and the prospect I'm talking about is in the engineering space.
Yeah.
Like, they came to that call with a different energy based on what I had done and in the video. So is that not emotion? You know, is that not going to help get the sale? So
Yeah.
every sale will be like emotional, like you got the rationality, which kind of like justifies the emotion, but those the two things work hand in hand together.
Yeah.
So, you know, like say you get a video, you do the tab test, you find 3 celebrants, you fill out the form. Well, maybe the one that's got pricing, you'll probably fill out the form, and then they send you a video. Like, you know what I mean? Like that works for every buyer. So far we are at traffic to leads. So these are the metrics, these are the markers you need to know if you're trying to fix a sales problem or get more sales and leads. Traffic to leads, lead to sale ratio, pipeline velocity, and the next one we can rattle through them quite quickly. The next one, Linda, is ROI per channel.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll mention here is a lot of still marketers to this day think that they just need to have awareness across lots of different channels, whereas that's not really the approach here. It's like understand your return on investment per channel that you're currently using, and then filter your budget and your money towards the channel that's most fruitful for you. As opposed to saying, I want to be on Bing, I want to be on Google, I want to be here and there. Like actually understand what's generating customers for you and then allocate your budget accordingly. I think we can move on from that.
Yeah,
Mobes.
let's do it. Yeah,
Yep.
we'll fire through them.
So we've also got customer lifetime value. So this is having a look at your retention essentially, which kind of feels like we're moving away from the key theme here, but I think I'll just share an example
it's part of the journey.
how
We started with traffic, now we've got customers.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about sales and revenue. So
how are you servicing those people? And if you have a really, really high churn rate, then you're going to always be chasing your tail when it comes to those other metrics that we spoke about trying to get your traffic to leads up, trying to get, you know, your lead targets, your sale targets up. If you have a really high churn rate, then it's going to be impossible and you're going to always be climbing uphill. So it is a really important metric to look at. I remember in previous roles, I was in that position where I was in the marketing seat and, you know, we just had really unrealistic targets with small-ish marketing budget for those targets. And it turned out just the product itself, like the service had been so neglected. It was just a really bad product.
Right.
And it was really disjointed from what the market was offering. And so we just had a huge churn rate amongst other things like poor customer service relations and that sort of thing. So it's one of those things where you got to go really big to go narrow, but important metric to look at.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay. Referral rate. Mobes, you were talking about referrals earlier. So this is something that is definitely the most cost-effective channel that you can have, but it can be really, really hard to be able to get going unless you have a moment that people really want to speak about and share with their loved ones, or it's really enticing for them to want to spread the name because it reflects upon the person in the end of the day. So it can be really hard to get this going without something quite enticing.
So I think people understand referral rate, what that means. You know, getting that, again, it goes a bit down to tracking and stuff. So once you're tracking it, then you can see it and then you can improve it. So let me get straight to like how to improve it. So the issue is like people don't know how to ask for a referral. They don't know when to ask for a referral, or they're too lazy, you know, to ask for a referral. Honestly, that's what it comes down to. There's a really good book that I learned this from called Exactly What to Say. The book is called Exactly What to Say. If you're not a reader, you'll love it. It's one of those short books written like a LinkedIn post. You can get through it really quickly. And essentially, like, he's got a strategy where he talks about, like, you have to find, you touched on this, the moment, right? Like, so when's the moment that is the right moment? I won't call it the moment of truth, but we should ask for one. Normally, it's when they say, Belinda, thank you so much. You guys crushed it. You know, you did so well. That should be a green flag. That should be like when you kick into this script. So then from there, and I don't remember the exact words, but the point is like once you have that, once someone says that, what you sort of say to them, you don't necessarily sort of say like, oh, hey, can you just refer me to someone? Say, look, I'm so glad you really enjoyed, you know, this, you know, is there anyone that you know who would benefit from some of the work that we've done? Does anyone sort of come to mind? And then from there, you know, like the whole point is not to sort of put them on you are putting them on the spot, but you have to realize if you just say that, they probably won't do it. So then you almost have to like bam fam that. So it's like, oh, I'm not sure, I'll think about it or whatever. Or especially if they say, look, I think there might be someone. Look, that's really, really amazing. Do you mind if I touch base with you next week? And then maybe you can share with, the details with me, because they're going to forget. So it kind of keeps that going. So what you really have to do is like processify. If you take anything away from what I've said, at least processify when you ask for a referral. What's that moment? Does that moment even exist? Can you create that moment if it doesn't exist? We did this a few years ago where we would just finish a project and we're like, we're going to implement something called a project close call, where it's just going to happen, right? So after the project's done, there's another meeting, and it's designed to get customer satisfaction, understand, could we have done any better? And yeah, dare I say, sell them something more if there's a fit. It's not just selling for the sake of it, but by that point, we know a lot of what they're doing, so we can recommend it. And it's like a free consultation, and they thank you for it. And 9 times out of 10, and it's not dubious, like it's win-win. You know what I mean? Like 9 times out of 10, they'll buy something from you. So similarly,
but you're right, it's at the right moment.
It's at the right moment. Which
is why they're thanking you.
So if you don't have that moment, find that moment, define that moment, and processify that moment. Like don't just, like, oh yeah, we get most of our customers from word of mouth, but you don't even have a process for it. So yeah, I think there might be like one, maybe we can just rattle these off and end it there, but I think there was 2, 3 more you had there, Linda.
When and why customers leave was the other. I think the important thing here is just looking at the why, not just the when. Most people will look at the when.
And track it.
Yep, and track that. The only thing I'll say on that is, if you're experiencing that churn when people are kind of like graduating from your services or going beyond that this is where you may want to look at like what the cross sells, upsells look like. For us, it was, we were realizing that people hit a certain point with digital marketing retainers and they graduate from that. So we introduced the done by you, which was actually teaching them how to do things in-house because they kind of graduated from us. So that's one. Employee satisfaction. Arguably the most important one
it's like
here,
a whole
but feels
topic
the most fluffy.
But again, these are metrics you should be having on your scorecard almost.
Yep. And that's it. That's all we've got.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, employee satisfaction is like last.
So yeah, we discussed a lot there. The point is like you need to have these, at least like the ones to sale, but arguably as important, maybe we can do another podcast on this, is like your actual lifetime value, your referral rate. So it's as important what happens after as much as what happens before. Because like you were saying at a previous place, like you just had too much churn and not enough ascension, like not retention or ascension for those customers. And you can't keep filling the pipeline.
100%.
So hopefully you guys learned something. Thank you so much, and we'll join you again next time.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Inbound Buzz. Learn anything? Return the favor by spreading the word. Want to make your mark in digital? Need help with your digital strategy, inbound, and marketing automation efforts? Then visit redpandas.com.au and be sure to tune in next time for another Inbound Buzz hit.